In this video, I'm going to show you how I work with the Many Endings story creator Custom GPT. So you will need a Chat GPT account to use this, but it can be the free version. You don't have to have a pro account. So if you use the link, or you can go to the GPT store and search for Many Endings Story Creator Lite, it's going to open up in something like this. Now, for this particular workshop, I'm going to tell you a hack if you want the absolute quickest way to just generate a story and test out how this works. All you have to type into the chat box is admin. And this is a shortcut that I put into the GPT configuration, and it is going to just start creating the story for you based on some very basic parameters. So let's give this a second. This does take a minute for this to create, and you can see some of the different options. If you didn't go the admin route, you can see some of the things on my screen that it would be asking you. It would be asking you the purpose of the story, the reading level of the story, the genre that you want, how many branches, and by that we mean how many decisions do you want the reader to make as they're going through the story, what's a topic, do you want, when they get to the end, do you want it to say, okay, you can go back to the previous decision if you want to keep going, or do you just want it to end? And do you have any source material? You could upload like a PDF or story that you already have written and use that kind of as the inspiration. So now it has created the first part of our fairy tales gone wrong. And so it created it here in this format. Now, this looks kind of funky, but this is exactly the format that we want. So I'm going to show you where this is ultimately going and why I have basically yelled at the GPT to put it in this format. Okay, here we are inside a Canvas spreadsheet. You could also use a Google Sheet and it's going to work the same way. Excel does not work for what we're doing, however. So it has to be something online, a Canvas sheet or a Google Sheet. And I've got my text box. I hit the copy button here in my Custom GPT. And then I'm just going to paste that, click on this very first cell and paste. And what you can see is this full story, or this very small story that we have, that it's completely written out. And if I adjust some of these columns, and perhaps I tell it to wrap these columns, but make it a little bit easier to read. So let's say overflow, there's the wrap. There we go. Now I can read the story that I've got going on here. I can also go back to Custom GPT and say, can you put this in preview form so it's easier for me to read here? And this is going to bring up just an alternate version of that very same story. Now, that's as easy as it is. Once it goes ahead and generates this, let's actually create one kind of from scratch or from a different idea rather than using the admin hack. Though, if you're in the Many Endings workshop, you are welcome to do that just to create a very quick story. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new story. It already had that created. You can see the banana broadcast ending and all sorts of silly fun that created for us. But let's create a new story. I would like one that teaches some vocabulary related to, and let's just pick something interesting related to space. How about a character that visits the planets in our solar system so that the story can include the planets, sun, moon, and words like galaxy, asteroid, and Milky Way. Let's say that. All right, so we are starting a brand new story, and all those questions that it sort of jumps you through immediately in the admin mode, now I'm going to go ahead and answer those. So I'm going to go 1, and let's say, yes, educational, but I would like some SpongeBob level comedy as well. For whatever reason, I found that mentioning SpongeBob as a reference point gets me some really crazy, zany stories that kids seem to really like. And then I'm going to hit Shift Enter so that it doesn't submit the answer to my question. And I'm going to say reading level, elementary, yes, genre, comedy, sci-fi. Sounds great. Let's put think, Spaceballs. 4, turn back choices. Let's skip those this time. And let's see, main character, the reader can be a space explorer. That sounds fun. And let's see, everything else. Yep, everything else looks good. Please create the story. All right, now one thing you might notice is that it's going to mention a few times like some weird numbering systems, and that is absolutely by design. In order to get ChatGPT to actually create a choose your own adventure style story, I had to give it some sort of numbering system. So the way that this custom GPT is configured, there is a node numbering system, and you can kind of see it here in the text that's popping up, node ID, node title. That is a way for ChatGPT to organize what it is outputting and help it sort of keep track of where it was and where it left off. I found before I tried to implement a system like this, ChatGPT had a really, really hard time like keeping track of all the endings. And since I've sort of got the system in place, it works a lot better. So let's see, we have looks like we have our full mini story here. So let's go ahead and copy this. And I'm just going to open up a new tab and do a new Google Sheet just so you can see that that works as well. And I'm going to click in that first cell and hit paste. There we go. And just like before, I'm going to want to, turn on wrap and extend my columns so it's a little bit easier to read, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if there were things in this that I didn't like, if the story was going a direction I didn't want it to go, I can always tell ChatGPT to do it again. Sort of the default way for this to be prompt is it's going to create just a little bit of the story for you and ask if it's on the right track before it keeps going with the rest of the story. So you just keep iterating and keep chatting. Don't be afraid to say, nope, I don't like that. We need to change it and do it another way. But ultimately, for this point in the tutorial and the workshop, you want to get to where you have either a Google Sheet or a Canva sheet that looks something like this. And then in the next step, you're going to see how to convert those into like a print